We are tracking multiple winter storms as we move into the month of December. The first one moves in tonight and lasts through about Tuesday, so pretty much happens the early portion of this work week. The next winter storm threat will happen later this work week into our Friday and Saturday, and this could be a little bit further south. So we'll speak on the details we know about that. And then we'll just round the video off discussing how I think we will continue to have more winter storm threats show up as we move deeper into the month of December. We'll kind of geek out with you guys a little bit, explain the pattern and all that good stuff. Listen, my videos are going to be long for the foreseeable future, so utilize those timestamps. Jump ahead to whatever portion of the video you want to listen to. I'm not going to get offended one bit. My name is Mitch. Good Sunday evening. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Subscribe if you haven't. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, please drop it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling tonight. So, this is the winter storm we've been dealing with over the last couple days, really this entire weekend. We had a good old-fashioned snowstorm yesterday across the Midwest. Hope you guys enjoyed that. But this system is starting to leave the picture now, starting to move into areas of eastern Canada. We got a little bit of rain down here in the mid-Atlantic southeast. This is much needed, but I think a larger system is going to move into the south here in the next day or so, which leads us to this. You see this little bit of blue showing up across the plains and the Rockies. I think some of this is not hitting the ground in Kansas, but if you are tuning in from Kansas or surrounding states, let me know if the snow is actually reaching the ground. But this is our energy starting to materialize for our winter storm that we got to figure out for the early portion of this work week. And then we got a little bit of energy to the south showing up too, and I think there's going to be a connection. Well, I don't think there is. And this is going to become a much larger storm system as all this energy moves into the eastern U.S. over the next 48 hours or so. So this is what's going on right now. What about watches, warnings, advisories? Well, we got winter weather advisories for a little bit of snow stretching from areas of Kansas. This does include Kansas City, St. Joseph, Topeka, Manhattan, Wichita. This does include areas of north of St. Louis, up into Burlington, several counties here south of Des Moines, Peoria, Bloomington. You got snow on the ground in these areas, a lot of it, and you got more snow on the way. So there is a little bit of a gap right here. The winter weather advisories down here in Arkansas, like Little Rock, Hot Springs, Jackson, we got some special weather statements also, probably for just a little bit of this winter weather. This is more so for ice, more so a wintry mix. I would say more so a wintry mix once you get into the northern areas up here in Kentucky. But we do got winter weather advisories up in Little Rock, Hot Springs, Jonesboro, areas of the Buda, Missouri, western sections of Tennessee. So this is pretty far south. Jackson. Does not include Memphis right now. That could change if guidance comes in a little bit colder. Paducah, Madisonville. So this is starting to become a now thing, guys. And I do want to mention we have winter storm watches up for areas of the Northeast. This does include Scranton, Binghamton, north of New York City. Does not include Boston yet, but almost all else of Massachusetts it does include here. The Worcester Hills, the Berkshires. I know you guys laugh at me when I always say that word. But the southern half of Vermont, New Hampshire, up here into the down east areas of Maine and southern areas of Maine. So this is on the way. So they're already honking the horn at a winter storm on the way. So let's go over the latest NAM model. I'm going to go back and forth between the NAM and the HRRR. And the HRRR model, HRRR model, always go back and forth whether I like to call it the HRRR or the HRRR model. But it's basically a short range model here. So as I always say, this says 1 a.m. Eastern time, so this is all in Central time for the most part, so back this up an hour. So this is midnight tonight. We got some snow moving across areas of Nebraska, northern areas of Kansas, a little bit of a wintry mix showing up down here in areas of Texas, so you have to let me know what you actually see. So what you're going to see as we continue to move forward, move this to the east. You're going to see one area of energy up here, one down here. When do they connect? And it makes sense why we do have winter weather advisories to the south and to the north with a gap in between. As we start to get into tomorrow morning, we got an area of snow up here in Omaha, starting to move into Des Moines. We got some moderate to heavy snow starting to move into the Kansas City area, Topeka, Wichita. It's snowing back here. A little bit of a wintry mix showing up here in Oklahoma City. And we continue to move forward. I do think, even though there's a gap right here, we're going to get a little bit of light wintry precipitation in northern Arkansas, southern Missouri, and even areas of northeast Oklahoma. Okay, this is a band of heavier snow up here. Could get a few inches of wet snow, and we'll go over those snowfall totals here in a second. And then as we are starting to move into 5 p.m. tomorrow, so this is 4 p.m. Central Time, I do want to show up here a little bit of snow. Let's just make it a little bit larger here. A little bit of snow as far north as Green Bay, and then we got the wintry mix down here in Arkansas. The pink, that's freezing rain. The purple, this is showing up as sleet on the NAM. Okay, and we continue to move this forward. It's snowing once again in Illinois. Chicago, it's snowing. Milwaukee, it's snowing. Springfield, Illinois, it's snowing. It's probably snowing back here in Springfield, Missouri also. And we keep this moving another several hours. This goes all the way out to about 11 p.m. tomorrow night. This is all rain in Nashville, but you're starting to see the freezing rain showing up in these favored cold air damming regions of North Carolina, even showing a little bit in northern Georgia. But this is a quick hitting, basically a quick hitting snowstorm for Indianapolis. So if you kind of got gypped a little bit on this last snowstorm, and I haven't read the comments from the feedback from yesterday, this morning's video, looked like I had a lot of comments. So you guys definitely responded when I asked you guys to put how much snow you got from this last winter storm. I'm looking forward to reading over everything. But Evansville, for example, let's back it up a little bit. Looks like it starts out as a wintry mix of sleet and snow in Evansville. And then by the time we get into late tomorrow night, it might switch to a band of heavy snow. And cold air trying to filter in behind this. Look at the snow in Cleveland late tomorrow night. And then we continue to move forward. Okay, look at that nasty wintry mix of ice and sleet. Lynchburg, Roanoke, down here near, Wytheville, Boone, Banner Elk, even down here in Hendersonville, Mount Mitchell, a little bit of freezing rain. In fact, I think there's going to be significant freezing rain, maybe over a quarter of an inch. You know, once we start to get to that quarter of an inch of freezing rain, that is significant. Starts to weigh down those tree limbs. But, we're starting to get into daybreak Tuesday. Let's back it up a little bit. This is about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Look at that heavy snow in Columbus, Cincinnati, switching to all heavy snow in Lexington, Kentucky. I wish it was Lexington, South Carolina, which is where I live. But we continue to move into Tuesday morning. It's all snow in Pittsburgh, heavy snow. Syracuse, Rochester, Buffalo, all snow. Cleveland snowing. And we got this in Charlottesville, just a nasty freezing rain mix. D.C., Baltimore looks to be mainly rain. Could start off as a wintry mix. I could see that happening. And as we continue just to show the rest of New England here, okay, looks like it could start out as a wintry mix in New York City. But then it quickly goes to rain Tuesday morning, and this is all snow and heavy, wet snow in the interior sections of New England. And it looks to be all rain in Boston. This is a nasty, cold rain along the I-95 corridor from New York City to Boston. Hartford, it's a wintry mix. You head over to the Berkshires. This is heavy, wet snow. It's going to be a tough line to figure out between rain and snow. Not a whole lot of a wintry mix in between. It's just going to go from heavy rain to heavy wet snow. Where is the snow line going to be? Manchester, Concord, you guys getting heavy wet snow. This is like Tuesday afternoon. And I mean, there could be a stripe of very intense snow as this low pressure really begins to intensify. And someone could get over a foot of snow in Maine. Whoever can stay the closest to the heaviest precipitation, but at the same time be cold enough for all snow, will get the most snow. I mean, this thing might kind of slow down, turn into more of a nor'easter. And it does finally switch to snow in Boston like late Tuesday night. Now, I do want to back it up here, and I do want to switch it to the HRRR model. Okay, and it goes 48 hours out. It's not a whole lot different, but I do want you guys to note this. This is getting into about late tomorrow night. It does switch to a wintry mix in Memphis. It switches to snow in western Tennessee. And we keep this going. Watch this. Watch the northern counties of Tennessee. This is switching to a period, like a 1 to 2 hour period of all heavy snow on the backside of this. And the HRRR model is very aggressive with a stripe of 1 to 2 inches of snow in the northern counties of Tennessee. And I do just want to mention that. I don't think it's just completely off the table for this to not happen, you know. So this is like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, Tuesday morning. It's snowing in Nashville. Okay, so, and then we go all the way to the end of this run, and it more so just follows the NAM as far as where that rain-snow line is. A little bit closer to the big cities here, but Philadelphia, D.C., the New York City, Boston, this is all a depressing cold rain. If it's going to be a cold rain, it might as well just be a cold snow, right? Now, I do want to show some love to some of the operational runs. And let's see if the 06Z is out. And it is, man, we're just right on the fringe of it. It is not fully ran yet. So we're going to have to show you guys a 12Z run. But, you know, it's about the same. It kind of follows the short range models. You can see the darker blue right in here. This is a band of heavy snow for northern Kentucky, southern and central Ohio. Wintry mix in that pink. Charleston, in this case, would get kind of gypped with just mainly rain. But Pittsburgh, this is all snow as we're getting into Tuesday morning. And it is just flat out colder for the I-95 corridor. New York City around the fringe, but staying all rain. But Boston, this is more so snow. Okay, a little bit of back end northwest flow on this. And then we look at the GFS. It's just more beefed up, guys. More beefed up moisture. And, I mean, it follows in line with the HRRR model and wants to switch this to heavy to wet snow in the northern counties of Tennessee and certainly into Kentucky. I mean, this will be a quick-hitting, heavy snow event as we're waking up Tuesday morning. It really starts late Monday night into Tuesday morning. Look at this band of heavy snow right here where Kentucky, Ohio, and West Virginia come together all the way up into a PA. I mean, nasty ice storm potential here. And then we continue to go forward. And, I mean, it really follows in line with the NAM and the HRRR model. The rain snow line is right from New York City to Boston. And, I mean, Hartford, I would say you're just tucked into more of the wintry side. A little bit of northwest flow on the back end of this could get going. So it's starting to turn wintry again, once again, for the Appalachian Mountains. But all right, let's go over some of these snow totals. And as always, we're going to work west to east. So if you're kind of just following the flow of the video, I appreciate you, but definitely utilize those timestamps because if you live in, say, Pennsylvania, you probably don't give a lick about, say, Nebraska. But this is Nebraska's snowfall forecast. Not a lot. A few inches of snow for the southern counties of the state. Omaha, nothing to an inch. You know, Lincoln, same thing. So not a big event at all for this area. We drop it down to Kansas, stripe of more heavier snow. Could get a few inches of wet snow from Colby to Hayes, over to Manhattan, Topeka, Kansas City, going for 1 to 2 inches of snow. But definitely not a big event. A little bit of freezing rain possible on the southern flank of this. And now we'll show some love to Oklahoma City, but they're not calling for much. But I do want to show you the ice graphic with this. A touch of a glaze of freezing rain is possible. I know there are some mountains here, and I always forget kind of the mountain range here in eastern Oklahoma. It's kind of like a connection to the Ozarks, but I know it's not called the Ozarks. But we could get a glaze of freezing rain in this area. Now we move it back north and then drop it south. 1 to 2 inches of snow is what they're forecasting in Des Moines. But you get south, maybe 2 to 3 inches of snow. But this is snow falling on top of more snow. Dubuque, 1 to 2 inches. 2 to 4 in Davenport. We just got a huge snowstorm here yesterday. We got more snow coming. And then we take a look at, say, Missouri. Northern areas, few inches of snow. You know, Memphis, 2 to 5. Quincy, 3 to 5 inches of snow. So kind of a jackpot area here. St. Louis could get a half an inch to an inch. But you see this area in southern areas of Missouri, there's kind of a void of moisture that we're seeing. We're trying to figure out. That's why we don't have any winter weather advisories as of right now in southern Missouri, because the question marks on if there's going to be kind of a dry slot with both areas of energy sort of coming together. But there is the possibility for a light glaze of ice down here in the southern areas of the state. And then we take a look at Arkansas. I think the northern areas of the state could mix with a little bit of snow, but I think it will be less than an inch. It's the icing in Arkansas that will be the worst for the middle of the country. I know this is kind of hard to see, but they're going for 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch of freezing rain in Little Rock. I would aim towards the kind of the lower end of that, but same thing in Hot Springs. But I mean, you even got a signal for a light glaze almost as far south as northern Louisiana. So we're going to have a wintry mix as we start to move into late tomorrow, really tomorrow morning into Tuesday morning for Arkansas. Seems like it's a state that always gets winter weather these days, at least. I don't want to hear anybody complain about a lack of winter weather in Arkansas. You guys always get it. But I'm sure somebody will. It's crazy the short memory people have of winter weather. But anyways, southern areas of Wisconsin, here comes about a half an inch to 2 inches of snow. Not a big deal, but it'll just be snow falling on top of more snow. And just showing you Michigan too while we're at it. It's a broad look. The UP will get a few inches of snow. And some of this might still be combining a little bit of lake effect stuff, but Grand Rapids 2 to 6 on the way. Could get a half an inch to 2 inches in Detroit. Might take a better, more close-up look at a graphic here in Michigan in tomorrow morning's video. But you know, taking a look at Illinois, we're going to have a stripe of several inches of snow going right through the north central areas of the state. A 1 to 4 in Chicago. Peoria, 3 to 5. Springfield, 2 to 3. Effingham, a trace to an inch of 2 inches of snow. So just about the entirety of the state of Illinois could get accumulating snow from this. Just nothing compared to what you guys just saw. Closer look at Indiana, 1/2 inch to 3 inches in Indianapolis, Fort Wayne 1 to 3, South Bend 2 to 4, Greensburg maybe in 1/2 inch to 4 inches. So the range is a little bit wide here, but once again, I do think there's a high possibility the entire state of Indiana sees at least enough snow to put like a coating on the ground or on elevated surfaces. But I think most people could get at least 1/2 inch to 1 inch of snow in Indiana. And then we look at Ohio. A little bit bullish on the totals, but going for about 1/2 inch to 3 inches in Columbus, Cincinnati, 1/2 inch to 4 inches. Wilmington, 1/2 inch to 5 inches of snow. So they'll probably will narrow all this down when we do the video tomorrow morning, but 1 to 4 in Cleveland, Youngstown 1 to 4. So same thing with Indiana and Illinois. With Ohio, I think most of the state sees accumulating snow. And then Kentucky, listen. For my folks and family tuning in from Kentucky, this is a tricky, tricky state. They're being a little conservative, and rightfully so. But if something like the HRRR model is correct, you're going to get a stripe of accumulating snow throughout the entirety of the state of Kentucky. But the western areas, going for around trace to 1/2 inch. Northern areas, we could get a stripe of a few inches of snow in this area, even though Lexington just 1/2 inch to 1 inch. But, they're not saying much for eastern Kentucky, but that could change. That could change. And I do think we can get a little bit of ice down here too. A glaze of ice is possible in the western areas of the state. I always wondered why they put the key over areas of the state here. It's kind of odd. But they're being pretty aggressive with the ice totals here in the northern areas of the state, northeast areas of the state. I would actually favor more of the western areas of the state getting freezing rain this setup, but who knows? We'll see. And then once again, northern counties of Tennessee is a wild card here. All right. And Nashville could get a wintry mix at the tail end of the storm when I just discussed the timeline as the precipitation's pulling out. But I would watch for the entire northern counties of Tennessee to get somebody could sneak and get an inch of snow. I'm telling you, somebody could. I would not be surprised one single bit. Ice totals not showing up for us, and that really stinks. But I do think I got the Memphis graphic pulled up. I don't, because they didn't have a good graphic up either. So I do think a little bit of a glaze of ice is possible right here. Just the graphics is not pulling up for us that very well. Anyways, let's start south to north again, and we're going to make our way all the way into the northeast. A little bit of freezing rain is expected here in the favorite areas of North Carolina, going for over 1/10 of an inch of freezing rain in Boone for this system oncoming. So on the way, and I could see a little bit of a glaze as far south as Hendersonville, but they're not forecasting any right now. But I think we could get an all-out ice storm once we move into areas of West Virginia and Virginia. Lexington, Virginia, almost 1/4 of an inch of ice is forecast. A glaze in Roanoke, Lynchburg, over 1/10 of an inch of freezing rain. Same thing with Blacksburg. So it's definitely going to be a notable glaze of ice in this area. And we can get a little bit of a sleet fest too in some of these areas. Hopefully we do, so we can avoid the freezing rain. And I do think we're going to get a little bit of snow in this area. When you have these kind of in situational kind of cold air damming events, a lot of times we can get surprises, and we can just get an all-out kind of front-end thumping of snow to start it off. And I think that could happen in Roanoke, Lynchburg, Wintergreen, Charlottesville. They're actually going for 1/2 inch of snow up here. And that'll be just enough to put a white coating on everything. If you're into that kind of stuff, I know I would be. I'd do anything for 1/2 inch of snow in December in my neck of the woods. That would be just amazing. But West Virginia, you can see the warm nose of air going up through Charleston and the Flatwoods area, just these lower elevated areas. But you get into the Highlands and the Allegheny Mountains, a couple inches of snow is expected. Wheeling, Weirton, I think is the way you say it, 1 to 4 inches of snow. And of course, you're going to get some ice in these areas too. A lot of ice potentially. Snowshoe going for over 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch of ice. Lewisburg, same thing. You see western areas of Maryland, a solid glaze of ice is possible. And just taking a closer look at Maryland, Hagerstown 2 inches, Frederick 1 inch, Winchester 1 inch, Cumberland 2 inches, Oakland 2 inches. And I do think we'll get a little bit of ice in these areas also. So be aware of that. A little bit of a glaze here in northern VA, certainly in central and definitely western Maryland. And you definitely get like 1/10 of an inch of freezing rain here in western areas of Maryland. And then we take it on up here to Pittsburgh. I want to show some love to this area because you guys always get ripped off with the snow. They're going for around 2 inches of snow in Pittsburgh right now. Could change. Greenville, 4 inches. Old City, 4 inches of snow. So some snow's on the way in this area. Central areas of PA, everybody's good for a few to maybe several inches of snow. Man, that is the second time I have swallowed my own spit in these videos. I gotta slow down. State College, 4 inches. Wow. Sorry about that. This is real as it gets, guys. I don't edit anything out of my videos. Wellsboro, 4 inches of snow. Harrisburg, 4 inches. So a pretty decent winter weather event, even for you guys. The standards is on the way. I can't speak for y'all, but you get what I'm saying. Scranton, 5 inches. LaPorte or LaPorte, something like that, 7 inches of snow. Allentown, 3 inches of snow. So the further you get into the northeastern sections of the state, near the Poconos and eventually into the Catskills, the more snow that is forecast. Then we take a look at Delaware and New Jersey. I haven't showed you guys yet this winter. Wilmington could sneak and get a trace to 1 inch of snow, but we get up into Hackettstown, 2 to 6, the Poconos, more snow in these higher elevated regions. Once you get into northern New Jersey, 500 feet makes a huge difference. Newark, maybe a ½ inch to 2 inches of snow. And then we start to move into the New York City area. They're going for 4/10 of an inch of snow right now. So pretty exact, right? But you head on up the road to Middletown, ½ a foot of snow forecast. And you show southern areas of Connecticut, could get 1 inch or 2 of snow. And then looking at Albany, this is when it gets tricky. And they got some wide ranges. Albany. In fact, let's just look at the points here. That'd be better. No, that don't work either. Because they go for the high amounts. It's always kind of weird to mess with this. Hunter, 2 to 12. Albany, 1 to 8. Manchester, 1 to 8 inches of snow. Pittsfield, 3 to 9. Berkshires are going to get theirs all the way down to northwestern areas of Connecticut. So a good bit of snow here. And then we show Buffalo. Buffalo, maybe 2 inches of snow on the way. And just western areas of New York and the southern tier areas, the Finger Lakes, a few inches of snow. Pause the screen if you need to, guys. I know I kind of moved through all this very fast, but I don't want to spend all the time in the world saying every single name on these maps. But hey, Robin, southern Vermont, you guys are going to get hit pretty hard with this one. I think this is going to be a moderate to significant snowstorm for you guys. And I say significant because it's going to be wet, heavy snow. It's going to be heavy. It's going to weigh down stuff. So, southern areas of Vermont, classic cotton ball type snow. 6 to as much as 10 inches of snow, I think, is going to be likely down here. And then southern New England's another tricky area, going for around ½ an inch in Boston. But you get near old Worcester, ½ a foot of snow is forecast. Fitchburg, 10 inches. Greenfield, 7. So they're starting to beef up these totals in these areas. Providence, 6/10 of an inch of snow. This is going to be a battleground right here of rain and snow. And then we look at the rest of New England, get up into New Hampshire, several inches of snow. Manchester, 8 inches. Augusta, 7. Bangor, 8. These could be on the higher end, though. Somebody can get a foot of snow in this area. And we wrap all this up by showing you the rest of Maine. Man, it is tough to get some of these through all these videos sometimes with how detailed I get. Just a lot of information to unpack. But down east areas of Maine could be in for about 8 to 12 inches of snow, depending on where you live. And I do want to show some love in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Newfoundland. I know you guys don't go off inches, but this is centimeters. So you guys could get, if you convert this to inches, some areas could get over a foot of snow. We'll feet a foot of snow out here in Newfoundland. But this is the Euro ensemble and how much snow you guys could potentially get. So did always want to just show you guys some love out in this area. Let's try to figure out this next winter storm threat. We're going to start off with Wednesday afternoon, and we actually have the new Euro, so we can flip this a little bit, and I think we have the entirety of it. So starting off Wednesday afternoon, so we're moving past this winter storm on the way. Same thing, some energy is going to try to connect, and the latest Euro does not show much at all. Okay, a little bit of icing showing up late Thursday night into Friday morning across areas of Arkansas and western Tennessee, but not much at all showing up. Okay, now we look at the GFS. What does it show? Same thing, we get into Thursday morning, moisture builds, shows more amped up moisture moving into cold air across areas of northern Texas and southwestern areas of Oklahoma. And then we start to get into Friday morning. Same thing, shows a little bit of freezing rain in northern Arkansas. We'll watch for that. And just get some more precipitation further north into that cold air. So showing another wintry mix Friday afternoon across areas of the Midwest and Missouri and Illinois. Now let's go on and move further east. Same thing, we're going to have to switch this to the 18Z. We got you fresh information. All right, here we go. Friday morning. Hadn't even seen this one yet. All right, you see that little bit of pink in the northern edge of this weak precipitation shield. So maybe a little freezing rain in areas of Middle Tennessee, and then this energy begins to move into a little bit of cold air damming, and we get an icy mix showing up for favored areas of North Carolina and Virginia again. And I think this has an opportunity to trend colder. But once again, shows what we're about to be dealing with over the next 24 to 48 hours across the same areas. A nasty, icy mix for areas of northwest North Carolina, western Virginia, West Virginia, and it does show snow moving into the mid-Atlantic region. And actually has, man, you got a decent in strength low pressure well off the coastline. If this trends a little bit further to the west, this could be another significant winter weather event that moves into this weekend. This is Saturday, and this is as far out as we got with this model run. And if we do switch it back to, say, the run from this afternoon, it's a lot more amped up. It has the low pressure closer, but it has cold air backed off a little bit more. So what about the GFS with this? It continues to be aggressive with this cold air damming. And, you know, the GFS is what it is, and it's bad. But it wants an all-out winter storm breaking out Friday across North Carolina, the Piedmont, and getting into Virginia. Even has a kind of a upper-level low area of energy back here in the Midwest. And they kind of combine here, and we got just ongoing snow to ice kind of situation, if this is correct, across those favored areas in the Mid-Atlantic and the Appalachian Mountains. Heavy snow up here in the Ohio Valley, and then this low pressure sort of kind of more so moves west to east and kind of heads off the coastline. So you got that. And what about the signal for this next winter weather threat? And then I would say, you know, looking at the Euro and the GFS, it's nothing crazy, but I could see some changes happening with this. And I'll explain why as we move deeper into the video. But this is in 24-hour periods off the Euro ensemble. And you're going to see the signal show up here. And here it comes, and then it gets a little bit more aggressive as we start to move into the northeast mid-Atlantic area as we're getting into Saturday morning. And you can see you got a 1-inch snowfall mean average from the Euro ensemble showing up across areas of West Virginia, Maryland, Virginia, PA, New Jersey, you know, Delaware, and this rides up the coastline, and it increases to over 2 inches in areas of the northeast. So there is a signal there. And then there is an ice signal too. You see this right here. This is for what's on the way early this week. And then watch how it expands south as we move forward. You see that little area that kind of dips south? That is for the next winter weather threat we just broke down. That could bring some ice a little bit further south, maybe into the Piedmont, North Carolina. So we'll continue to watch this. So why is something like the GFS so aggressive, and could it be right? And I will say it could be on to something, but, you know, I will say that the GFS tends to not be that good, especially these days, but I could see it being right because of the cold air kind of riding over what I would call a glacier right now, and that's tons of snowpack to the north of where this winter weather threat could be further south. So we're going to make this very easy to understand here. You see this area right here? Let's draw on this a little bit. See this area right here? That is a big cold air source. Now watch as we move this more so into Thursday and Friday. That's going to move right over here over areas of the Northeast and Atlantic Canada. So by the time we're into Friday afternoon, it's right here. Okay? What does that do? Well, that provides a cold air source from the northeast. So that anchors in a cold high pressure somewhere over the northeast in the mid-Atlantic, and that cold air gets trapped east of the Appalachian Mountains. Another great way to see this indicates low pressure and high pressure, cut and dry. You see that H kind of over areas of Delaware and New Jersey? That is that cold, high pressure being locked. Well, it's not locked in place, but it's being put in place by that cold air source from the polar region to the north. Kind of like a piece of the polar vortex almost is getting thrown over the eastern areas of Canada. So this throws in a cold high right here and creates a wedge of cold air at the surface. And you can see it right here. It's kind of wedging right into here, pumping in northeast flow, cold air working into the surface. At the same time, you see this blue area here? This is our low pressure about to ride over that cold air at the surface. We call it overrunning. It's overrunning cold air. So that allows for a winter weather opportunity. Now, one thing I'll note is even on the aggressive GFS, that high pressure, I know you can barely see it. It's only a 1029 high. So, I mean, it's not a fantastic cold air source. It's also not in the best position, and it doesn't help that it's leaving. It's not anchored in place. Okay, it's just kind of here. Okay, we would really need this thing anchored in place somewhere in here. So it's not in a terrible position, but you need it stronger, like 1030, 1040 if you want a winter weather event, even stronger. So it doesn't help that it's heading on out. There's nothing keeping it in place. So therefore, if you actually look at the temperature profiles on the GFS, you can see these negative anomalies. You know, you got 20, 25 degrees below average temperatures for midday Friday, and that is because cold air is getting locked in place for a time period. But it's only for a time period, and that's, you know, you move into Saturday, it warms right back up to around average to even above average temperatures. So nothing's locking that in place. We will continue to watch that towards the end of the week. What about moving forward? As we move into around this time next week, so this is next Sunday morning, we continue to have this huge broad troughing. Now, is this a really deep trough? You know, I don't know. We got to figure that one out. But we continue to have this cold air source right here. And let's make this a little bit bigger. Cold air source right here. Okay, but it's not diving super far deep. But we do have this deep trough still in place and areas of energy kind of diving in or embedded into the trough. Are we going to have any connection to any kind of southern stream energy? You know, we got to figure that kind of stuff out. But we continue to have this consistent trough over the central to eastern U.S., a little bit of a ridge flex over the western U.S. One thing I don't like to see is just a lot of troughing over Alaska as a winter weather fan. So it's normally when it's warm in Alaska, it's normally a great winter weather pattern into the central to eastern U.S., but it's actually colder in Alaska. So it's called a positive EPO. We need a negative EPO. But we continue to move forward in the big area in blue, which is a trough, lower pressure, cold air, at least shots of cold air. It continues to be in the same spot and reinforces itself. We go all the way out to day 10, December the 10th, and we continue to have this big trough in place, and it doesn't dive super deep, but of course, the further out we get, the more everything just modifies, whether it's a trough or a ridge. And but we continue to still have it. Now, at the very end, you see a little bit of a ridge nudge starting to show up, but that's very far out. So, I mean, if you extend this for the first 5 days, well, this is actually between December 2nd and December the 10th. And the averaged out period just has a trough over the entire central to eastern U.S. So it's going to keep us colder than average for certain areas and the potential for some storm systems connecting. So, and if you look at temperatures in response to all this, you know, you continue to have just colder than average temperatures overspreading the central to eastern U.S., and this is starting off a week from today, and it continues into the day 7 to day 10 time frame. Colder than average temperatures over the central to eastern U.S. showing up. The greens is like, 5 to 15 degrees below average, and we get to day 10. It's warmer in the west, colder in the east still. This is all the way out to December the 10th. We get into the 15th, the 12th, all the way to the end of the run, and we continue all the way through the mid-month time frame to have colder than average temperatures across the eastern U.S. So, yeah, and I mean, it backs up what we're seeing from the Climate Prediction Center, the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, the 6th through the 10th. In the blue area, this is where they're leaning towards below average temperatures. And then we even extend this out to the 8 to 14 day outlook. And it's around near normal temperatures in the southeast, but still dealing with below average temperature chances across the eastern U.S. And we kind of just wrap it up by showing you guys the MJO once again. And at the end of the day, guys, let's make this as simple as possible. And I always say that, and I try to make it as hard as possible. Right now, we're in phase 7. It's the 30th of November, so we're fully into phase 7. Okay, all this is behind us. All right, and we're working in this direction. So you see this 2, that is December the 2nd. That's 2 days ahead of us. And we're heading right towards phase 8. Phase 8, phase 1 and 2 are going to bring us winter weather chances and colder air across areas of the country, definitely the eastern U.S. So we're heading right towards phase 8, which is a very good phase for winter weather fans in the month of December. And it shows us getting there and just kind of hanging out there, just kind of setting up a tent and chilling for the first half of December. So it continues to look good. And one thing, I'll wrap this up by saying this. I think this is a huge week out in front of us of seeing if model guidance is going to shift to back up MJO progression, which is what we're looking at right here. Because it should. It absolutely should. So I think, if I had to take a guess, I think when we make a video next Sunday evening, we're going to be tracking more winter storms out ahead of us. So y'all can hold me to that. That's just my shot at things. But there's no way that we don't get anything crazier to happen a little bit further south if we're going to hang out in phase 8 for this long. And I know it's still early winter, but, something's got to give. So that's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful night. And we'll wake up tomorrow morning, hit it hard, and do it again. God bless.